All right, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back. Very, very grateful to have James Ruiz in my family room, kitchen, studio, whatever you want to call this square part apart my apartment with me this evening. James was born in Houston. He now lives in Austin, Texas. We connected pretty quickly because we both have a career within health clubs, except I went the operations management route. He went the sales route. So definitely looking forward to diving in on our careers and how they went there. He now works for ADT, setting up security. So if The Purge goes from being a movie to reality, I would suggest you call him first. I think we both have a similar mindset when it comes to the gym, just based off some of his Instagram posts I saw. Really excited for fitness episodes as someone who worked for a gym for 11 years. So James, super grateful and excited to have you here. Curious to see where the conversation goes. Welcome to David's Saturday Night Sit Back, my friend.
David, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the invite. I'm glad we were able to connect and get things going here.
Definitely.
Awesome.
So first question for you. You went to Venice Beach in 2015.
I did, yes.
What'd you think?
Yeah. So, man, at the time, 2015, I think things were kind of getting legalized there at the time, or it was on the uprise. Personally, I had a great experience. It wasn't as clean as I expected, but of course, seeing Venice Beach on social media and not being to California at all before that was kind of the first experience I got for that whole city. But I have been back since then, and things aren't necessarily better as far as the cleanliness, but I feel it's all about how you make it, right? I had a good experience the last couple of times that I was there, so nothing real bad to say about it. Of course, there's a big homeless situation there, only that I've seen online and kind of in person. But again, things could have very well changed,
I laughed when I asked you what you thought about it because me and my friends knew nothing about it. Even though we lived in California, we knew it was there. We had heard about it, and we mainly went because it was a two-part reason. One, it was my friend's bachelor party, and he wanted to go. He thought, me and the boys hang out on the beach for a few days. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Plus, Muscle Beach is out there, so we could see that, potentially work out there for a couple hours.
Sure.
So we get out there, and the first surprise was just what's the middle of summer at this point? It was May, I think.
Okay.
And half the people were in costumes. We were like, oh man, there's like demons and angels and bears and dogs. Was it the same when you were out there?
No, not really. I mean, it was a cluster of a bunch of different type of people. I can't really put a pin on exactly one specific niche that I saw there, but costumes, really.
Yeah, not everyone, excuse me, probably 40 to 50% of the people were dressed in these very exotic costumes, almost like what you might see at a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
It wasn't I went to Spirit Halloween and bought this thing. It was like I put on this makeup and...
Yeah. So I've seen that before, and I believe I was in Arizona, and there was if you're familiar with steampunk, have you heard of that? So it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially everybody was in kind of old time but futuristic costumes, right? So that was kind of a new experience for me, and it kind of sounds like that's what it may have been, a steampunk convention, because there was a mass amount of people that were wearing these kind of costumes, and they kind of came out of nowhere. So it could have been the same thing, maybe, but that's weird. Did you find out later that there was like any kind of festival or anything going on? It was just the regular people there?
We just sort of accepted that's how it was. Yeah. This is Venice Beach. You do what you want. You dress however you want. Dress quote unquote normal, whatever that means anymore, versus or in costume, whatever suits your fancy.
Yeah.
Second thing we experienced was on day number 2, we went to work out at Muscle Beach. And as soon as we got out there, the people at this gym were monsters. Oh, yeah. These are the gods of Greece themselves, inhabiting human bodies on Earth. And as soon as we saw not only their physique, but how they were working out, how much weight they were using, we just thought, we'll just watch for a few minutes.
The intensity notch definitely gets taken up there, for sure.
Did you get a workout in while you were there?
I did not. We passed by it. Of course, same kind of situation. There's a lot of people there. It's a little bit intimidating. I was more so new to the fitness game. I was pretty small at the time, didn't want to kind of go in there. And plus I was with a couple buddies that also didn't work out. So I didn't want to take too much time away from the trip just to kind of go get a little pump in at Muscle Beach, right?
Yeah.
But it was cool. Like you said, everybody there was super jacked and lifting with an intensity that I've never seen before. And I've only seen it really on social media. So I kind of knew what to expect for the Muscle Beach area, but maybe next time I'll get a workout in there now that I'm a little bit more bigger, right?
You're jacked. Yeah, we'll
Thank you,
talk
man.
about
Thank you.
that. Funny story I was going to say from there was we were on the beach one day, swam a little bit, got some food. We're just hanging out, being bros, doing
Yeah.
beach stuff. And a seal or a walrus, I'm not very good with animals.
Yeah.
That's not my thing. A large, flubbery creature
Yeah.
rolled up onto the sand. And everyone ran over and they're taking their pictures and turning around and get their selfies with the dolphin or whatever in the background. And our buddy Jake says, "Guys, we shouldn't we call the police?" We said, "Why?" And he said, "Because there's a seal on the beach." He said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, sharks eat seal." Okay. And he says, "Well, if there's a seal on the beach, that means there's sharks really close." And my buddy Alex says, "Jake, listen to yourself. You want us to call 911 and tell them that there's sharks in the ocean."
The water police, right?
The water police.
And the sea creature police. Come
God
on.
bless Jake.
Wow.
And at first, I didn't really put the connection at first either. I was just sort of listening to the banter between Alex and Jake and hearing it play out. But then as soon as Alex said that, I was like, yeah, I guess we don't need to call the police. They know.
Yeah.
They know there's sharks
I'm
in the water.
sure they're
And,
very
and
aware.
we know there's sharks in the
Yeah.
water. We
Oh,
all
yeah.
know
It's
this.
the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho, how many muscle ups can you do these days?
I haven't attempted a muscle up or at least multiple muscle ups. I do a muscle up probably once every 8 months just to make sure I still got it.
Do one
Yeah, just one.
every 8 months.
Just one. Roughly once a year to 8 months or so, just to make sure I still have that kind of, capability of doing it. But I want to say, based off of the one that I do every year for the last few years, probably since my last Instagram post that I did that, I can probably do maybe
Okay.
6 or 7 with the CrossFit swing, maybe.
When you first started working out, was that a goal of yours?
That was the biggest goal that I had, was to do a muscle up. And a lot of teenagers that age too. I was about 16 or 17 when I started working out. The gym that I went to, that was the main goal to hit is one muscle up, a few muscle ups, and then I started stirring away from that CrossFit style workouts and started doing bodybuilding a little bit more.
In my realm of what I observe at the gyms I go to, it seems like to me leg days are becoming much more significant. Do you feel like over the last 5 to 10 years, people are putting a more emphasis on squats and deadlifts and knee sleeves and back, and it's almost like a thing. It's
Yeah.
not just leg day; it's like a ritual.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say so, and that's the same case for me too. I've more progressively, and I've always loved doing legs. I've more progressively fallen in love with my leg days, specifically more because a lot of things a lot of research that I've done on doing legs. It says it increases testosterone levels. It increases, and of course, increased testosterone levels comes up with a lot of other benefits. But as far as the kind of switch that I've seen it, whenever I first started working out, and this may be because of the group that I was with, leg day was non-existent, right? It was all upper body, just try to look good, things like that. But when I started getting more into the, bodybuilding and trying to shape and get stronger. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I think leg day has become a more dominant muscle group that a lot of people are doing, especially with the knee sleeves. And I think it's the kind of gym that you're going to, right? So with this gym that I go to now, I would say it's more of a serious style gym. So everybody is dedicated to doing their leg days. You don't really see guys in there with big upper bodies and small legs. It's more well-rounded in that sense. So yeah.
And give a shout out to the local gym. Where are you working out these
Los
days?
Campeones, the best gym in town.
Yep. Well, I haven't been there yet.
That's actually
but
their logo, the best gym in town. It says it on there.
good for them.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
you say it, people will believe it.
Yeah,
So.
I believe it. So.
All right, you worked for Gold's Gym for, you said, 5 to 6 years. How'd you get that job?
So I got that job really just by applying. I mean, I was in there. I was in there every single day. I started getting familiar with the people that work there. One of the first guys I met there actually is now one of my best friends. He has been for the last 6 or 7 years. He got me the job. We were both working there for a little bit, and then we never disconnected. So getting into the gym world, I want to say it definitely has changed my life and given me a ton of different perspectives. I'm sure you can attest to the gym you go to now, the amount of trainers there are there and the amount of knowledge that they have. And I'm not sure if you've talked to any of them, but there was the number one trainer in the nation, Mike Miller, who worked at the gym that you're currently at. And the amount of perspective I got from not only him, but the amazing trainers that are in there. It's a top tier gym for training. I want to say it's still the number one training gym as far as revenue in the whole Austin area,
Nice.
if I'm not mistaken. So kind of being there 5-6 years, gathering a bunch of perspectives from everybody, all the trainers, things like that. It's kind of brought me to where I am now.
When I was working there, it got me into working out. I played soccer and basketball as a kid,
Hmm.
gave up around my sophomore year of high school, didn't work out at all in any kind of gym setting until my senior year.
Yeah, same
And
here.
a friend was driving me to and from school because the family car that I was using to get to and from school broke down.
Hmm.
And he said, "Hey, there's this new gym opening up. They have a trailer. They're accepting applications. Do you mind if we stop by and apply?" I said, "Of course not." He's filling out his application. General manager walks over to me and says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm with my buddy. He gave me a ride to school. He's applying for a job." And she said, "Are you?" And I said, "Nope." And she said, "Yeah, you are." Shoves an application in my hand. I fill it out. As soon as I'm done filling it out, she walks me over to a table. Her and another lady named Melissa and another lady named Lori, the three of them interview me. The next morning at 7 a.m., I was told, "You have a job."
Oh, wow.
Fast forward 11 years, and I worked for that
Wow.
company, helped them open a couple gyms, close a few gyms that were underperforming, helped them turn a profit on a gym that was losing revenue. It was,
Awesome.
dude, it was such a fun
That's
11
awesome.
years. It
Yeah.
was so much fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can say that I've definitely had the most fun working at that specific gym, Gold's Gym BK. I worked for another gym, 24 Hour Fitness in Houston, for that year that I was there, but nothing really compared to the culture that was at that Gold's Gym BK, man. It was kind of a really, really nice community in a really nice area. Got to know a lot of people. I lived right there next to the gym in the Galleria. Walked
Okay.
to work every single day and just became friends with everybody, man, especially the high-end people that are there. The Undertaker goes there. I'm not sure if you've seen him there at all. Yeah. So
Does he
the
still look the same? I haven't seen him in 2 to 4 years.
so you probably will, yeah, you probably will recognize him. He's extremely tall. He may not go there anymore. I remember last time there was some issues with his membership, and he may have dropped it when I was there. But Jamal Charles and just a lot of famous people were going there at the time, and I think that's because of the high end area. Spanish Oaks is around there, places like that. So I like having people with good influence, especially people with a high magnitude of credibility in the area. So.
Yeah, I heard a interview with Seth Rollins. I
Mhm.
think he's WWE, right?
I think so. Yeah, that
Let's
sounds
go. Let's
familiar.
go with it.
Yeah.
I had no idea what a career with the WWE was like,
Hmm.
from being on the road to keeping up with the physical aspect of it, to knowing that it's not just the sport of wrestling within the ring,
Yeah.
but they're also actors and actresses
Oh yeah.
because they're coming up with the different scripts and the storylines to keep the crowd engaged.
Sure.
I can't even stay on their caliber without being on the
Yeah.
road 24/7. So the fact that all of their athletes are just peak performers
Hmm.
while juggling everything else, after hearing that interview, just mad respect for them.
Oh yeah.
But if I see him there, if I see the Undertaker, I'll do the exact same thing I did with Abel. I'll just walk right up to him
Oh
and be
yeah.
like, "Hey man, you don't know me,
Yeah.
but..."
He's a really nice guy. If he's in his zone, he's probably not going to want you to talk to him. But if you get the chance to, I know he was pretty close with the janitor there. I'm not sure if the janitor is still there, Johnny. But he was a really nice guy. Him being the kind of the picture that they portray him in the WWE is a lot different from what he is in actual real life, right? He's not that big, scary eyes roll in the back of his head when he comes in, things like that. Very nice guy, very genuine, and it was good to see him there almost probably once or twice a week within
Yeah.
the last 4 or 5 years that I was working there. So.
I've heard a few different interviews with people who play villains, for lack of a better term, whether
Mhm.
it's in a TV show, a movie, someone like The Undertaker. And at the end of the day, when I hear them in these interviews, they're very nice people and
Oh
they
yeah.
just do it for fun. That's the kid in them. It would be fun to be the bad guy, you know?
Yeah.
So for him, I could imagine, I'm projecting a little bit, not projecting, that's the wrong word, but for him, it's probably just super fun to be able to show up and be the villain and to be the fucking Undertaker.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's anything like that in real life.
Yeah, being one of the most, I mean, in my opinion, one of the most notorious wrestlers of all time, one of the most well known, especially.
Yeah.
All you see on WWE is like the dark side, big, like I said, big, scary guy. But no, man, he's very personable. He gets along, he got along with all the staff all the time. And like I said, seeing him there every single day was kind of, it made me love my job a lot. Just having, like I said, the magnitude of influence that he has, and me being there, being the sales manager, and me getting to talk to him, things like that. It really made me fall in love with not only the fitness industry, but just that specific gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Does their hierarchy, do they have an operations manager and a sales manager, or let's go with pre-COVID because I'm sure it's changed since then.
Yes.
But when you worked there, what was the management hierarchy per location?
Yeah, so they did have an operations manager at the time. It was front desk, it was pretty much front desk, operations manager. There was a fitness manager, which was the head of all the trainers, and then there's the general manager. While I was there, it switched up quite a bit. There was no more operations manager. They put an assistant GM instead of operations, and it was assistant GM and sales manager at the time. So I was doing a little bit of operations, but for the most part, I was just kind of doing sales. So they kind of joined those two positions together.
And was there a specific reason that you went the sales route versus fitness operations or the GM?
Not necessarily. So I was back in whenever I was working for 24 Hour Fitness, I did want to be a GM. I didn't really have too much going on for me at the time. So I was doing very well as being assistant GM, and the opportunity was there. My GM was telling me you just have to do this, that, and the other to be a GM. I was working towards that, and then I ended up moving back to Austin. I actually interviewed to move to the 24 Hour Fitness here, but unfortunately didn't get that position. But since then, I mean, since leaving the fitness industry, I think sales has always kind of stuck with me. I feel like I have pretty good communication skills in talking to people and not necessarily saying getting what I want, but being a good salesman, being personable and knowing my craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being articulate, being able to communicate, being able
Yes.
to level with people where they're at and whoever they are, whether
Yeah.
they're extroverted, introverted, first day at the gym, or
Yeah.
someone like me, been working out for 17 years, moved to Austin. I know what I want. Just sell me the damn
Yeah.
membership,
Yeah.
No, that's good. And you seem very articulate based off what I'm hearing so far. Curious before we move away from the gym for a second, on your left wrist, what's that particular tattoo?
This is HTX 96. Funny story about this tattoo, actually. It's a stick and
Yes.
poke.
A stick and poke?
It's a stick and poke.
What's
Yeah.
a stick and poke,
So
James?
stick and poke is whenever you basically have, it's kind of like a sewing needle. It comes in a kit too on Amazon. It's not just some unsterile needle. You can get a stick and poke kit on Amazon. And the funny story, it's I want to say it's funny but not funny. But so my mom went out of town and she has a cabin in Lake Conroe in Houston. She went out of town. I was asked to house sit, and naturally being 24, 25, house on the lake, middle of COVID, I decided to throw a house party in there. So it was the basement. There was kind of like a big game room basement. I want to say I had about 20, 30 people. Mom, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. She knows though already. So 20, 30 people in there. And it was basically a huge party and everybody was getting stick and poke tattoos.
Okay.
So that's the story behind that. I got in a significant amount of trouble because everybody in that neighborhood was either, and like I said, my mom's a police officer. They were either judges, cops, some kind of law enforcement. So neighbors on both sides called my mom, complained, and mom gave me a call on how to kick everybody out. So fun story there.
Is that the original tattoo though, or was that like covering up something that you
This was the original.
got? Okay.
Yeah.
Were you born in 96?
I was, yes.
So before we started the podcast, I gave you a list of prompts to just give you a chance to tell a story about
Sure.
yourself, give the people some context as to who you are. You chose one that was not on the list, which is dreams. So
Yeah.
talk to us about dreams.
Right. So within the last, and I want to say it's been going on since maybe 13 or 14, as far as I can remember, me actually remembering my dreams, they've all been generally the same exact setting. And what makes it crazy is that I lucid dream every single night of my life. And I say that with meaning I can have exact full control over every single one of my dreams and feel everything, pain, emotions, what have you, right? So the settings of my dreams, it's always on a body of water. It always has something to do with a boat, and you can take your interpret. And I ask people this all the time. What do you think this means? I'm always on a boat. I'm always being chased by somebody. So I'm always having to fight for my life in these dreams. And like I said, this has been going on for over 10 years. And with full control, I wake up and I remember bits and pieces. But the only things that I can remember is a body of water, a boat, and then I have full control. I felt every single pain aspect, emotion aspect. And yeah, I'm not really sure where it comes from, man. And I've never really even done like a deep dive on, what the meanings behind that are. But Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what exactly it means, but like I said, entire full control probably, and it gets scary at times. You know, I die in my dreams sometimes, probably once a week, which is pretty weird. If you if you know ask the average person how often do you die in your dreams? How often do you die in your dreams, Aiden?
Maybe 5 times in my whole life.
Weird, right?
Right.
Yeah, but to have full control and die and feel all the emotions and especially pain if you're being shot, if you're being stabbed, this, that, and the other, full on everything. It's like I wake up and I was in a movie that I can't remember, but I was there. It's almost like a real life DMT trip. I've never done DMT, but it's almost like a you know yeah. I don't really know how to explain it. I've never kind of really did a deep dive into explaining it too hard, but I don't know. What do you think about
So
that? It's pretty crazy, right?
let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
If you have full control, why would there ever be a situation where you'd allow yourself to get shot, stabbed, hung, drowned, whatever it is?
That's a great question. It kind of happens. You know, let's say somebody's breaking into your house and, you know, I have to defend myself and I end up getting shot first. Things like that will happen. Or, you know,
So you're in full control of you, not full control of the
yeah,
universe
sorry.
of the dream.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So full control of myself. So I don't get to decide the setting of the situation. I don't get to decide, you know, what other people are doing, what their actions are. It's all just me, right? So I have full control. I'm looking at my hand saying, holy shit, I'm in a dream. And then the outside things happen and I have to defend myself or bad things end up happening and just having the full control is just especially for over 10 years and just not knowing the meaning. It's pretty wild.
How do you feel when you wake up?
I feel great, man.
Even on
to
the times you die?
Yeah, to be honest, I feel great. I don't remember every single aspect, but I've gotten so used to it, man. Just I've gotten so used to it to the point where I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared to fall asleep. I never really have been. Just because I know certain things in my dream are going to happen that I don't necessarily have control over people doing things to me, but I have
Hmm.
control to defend myself. And it being on a body of water and or boat is really been the weirdest thing for me. So yeah, just waking up, not remembering everything, but knowing that I had full control over that dream
Yeah.
and the certain little crazy parts, like me dying. I'll wake up and say, "Holy shit, I died in my dream last night," but I'm not scared. I'm not, you know, go back to sleep the same night, and it's the same thing. Not death, but full lucid control over my dream.
When you first wake up, do you ever have that falling effect? You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, where you jump up? Like, have you ever fallen off the ship?
Yes. Yeah.
And then when you wake up, you're sort of instantly from lying down to sitting, it's a jump. I don't know how else to, has that ever happened?
That has happened.
Is that
Yeah.
consistent or?
That's not consistent at all. One of the only times that happened, I was woken up because it was kind of like one of those, what do you call it? Maybe like a night terror to where you're kind of awake, but you can still see half of your dream. I
Hmm.
guess I was like screaming, but I was awake. My eyes were open, but I was like, screaming in my dream. And all of a sudden I get up and I had that falling feeling like I'm coming down on a roller coaster. But no, maybe like once or twice I've had that feeling.
Was there any point in those 10 years that since you've been having the dream that you were afraid to fall asleep, where you got into bed and you were just like, fuck, you just found yourself staring at the ceiling, maybe even subconsciously keeping yourself awake because you were worried about the dreaming coming back?
No, to be honest, never. I've never really been scared to fall asleep, even knowing that bad things are going to happen in my dream, because for the most part, they are bad things that happen in my dream. I want to say 5 out of the 7 days of the week, it's something bad, whether I'm being chased or whether I'm being harmed or defending myself from being harmed. Yeah, 5 out of the 7 days. The other 2 days where I'm lucid dreaming and everything's going great, those are the best dreams ever. As you can imagine, as you can imagine, there's
I lived.
yeah, I
Mario got to
lived.
the end
Yeah,
of the world this
yeah.
time.
Not only I lived, but there was amazing things happening in my dream that I had full control over. Whether it being people that I love, doing fun things, just things like that. Yeah. Have you ever heard of anybody that's had any kind of experience like that with their dreams?
Um, the only let me think here. First one that comes to mind, a friend of mine, I'll leave him unnamed. I've lost contact with him, but regardless, I'll leave him unnamed. When I was 20, it was one of my roommates, and we were both raised Christian. And at the time, we were both still actively going to church and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was one night where we woke up in the middle of the night because he was thrashing out about in his bed and just making a bunch of noise. It was one of those instances where you woke up and you just knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
It wasn't just bodies moving. It's like, oh, fuck. So I ran over to the light switch, turned it on, and he said that he woke up and that there is a demon floating over his bed and he couldn't move and that it was threatening him in a sense. And fast forward to now being the age I am and reading some books and articles on sleep, I didn't realize that when you're asleep, your body puts itself in paralysis mode, because if it didn't, we would actually kill ourselves in our sleep. So I don't know if you've ever woken up
Makes sense.
and for a split second, it's very quick. Typically, the body wakes up first so it can release you from the paralysis. But every now and then you can wake up and your brain wakes up first. And so for a split
waking up,
second, you're
punching.
still in paralysis and you're like, why can't I move?
Yeah.
I think that's probably what happened to him. Was we probably had some sort of sermon at
Interesting.
church. It got under his skin for whatever reason. And then he had this nightmare coupled with his sleep paralysis and his brain woke up before his body did. I know I've also had that where I have been under some sort of threat of drowning, or I remember one a couple years ago, something was being stuffed in my mouth and I was halfway between asleep and awake because I knew I was in a dream and I was trying to fight it, but my body the chemical hadn't been released yet
Yeah.
to release me from the paralysis. I probably have those dreams probably once a year and I hate them. I
Yeah.
wake up and I almost can't go back to sleep, and it's just a chemical reaction, but I still just can't. It bugs the shit out of me. The only one that I would also say would be worth bringing up, actually two, they were both in my prior apartment. And there is one where I felt like there is some sort of presence in my room. And I woke up, and in the corner of my room, I thought, I could swear, James, I thought there was like an outline of someone. So I grabbed my phone, turn on the flashlight, no one there. Look under the bed, look in the closet. It was so weird. Have you ever had a roommate and when maybe you're studying here and they're walking up from behind you and you can sense them?
Yeah.
It was
of
like
course.
that. I felt like I could sense a human presence or some sort of presence in the room. I don't talk about that one a lot because I think it's just my imagination running wild.
Yeah.
One I did tell my brother about was Christmas time in the same apartment. So this would have been Christmas of 2021. And all the Christmas lights, you had to plug them into the wall. So every night I would pull the cord out of the wall, set it down on the ground. And I remember one night I woke up in the middle of the night and all the Christmas lights were back on. And I was telling my brother about it. And he's like, well, weren't you probably just like drinking or maybe you forgot? And I remember I was telling him, I was like, no, dude.
Yeah.
Like someone had to come into the unit to pick up the cord and plug it in the wall. It wasn't like I switched the power switch off. I remember unplugging everything, making the coffee. I took a piss. I got my water to chug the next morning, and I went to bed in pitch black. That's how I sleep. I have blackout curtains. I want my room dark.
Yeah.
I woke up at like 2 a.m. and everything was on. The tree was on, the lights around the perimeter of the wall. He calls me crazy and he just sort of wrote it off. And I was like, no, dude, either I sleepwalk, like there's some sort of explanation behind this. I'll never know what it is. It was free. It was almost like an episode out of Stranger Things or something. I don't know. But
That's crazy.
I didn't like those two dreams.
Yeah.
Or not dreams, those two instances.
Yeah, whatever you would call them. But yeah, man. And really for me, I don't really take too much meaning from my dreams because over the last 10, 15 years, I haven't really figured out what exactly it is. And thinking about them every single day, especially when I wake up, I still can't put a pin on it. So I've had that same experience too. And that was where I was screaming in my sleep. My eyes were open. I was screaming, but I was still in like half dream mode. And there was like a shadow in the corner. And typically whenever that happens, that's usually what most people see is the figure that's in their dream is coming out into real life. And you can kind of see that figure in your brain, but not in real life. So it's an interesting story, man.
I'm curious, have you ever talked to your mom about it?
No, I haven't. I never have.
Why not?
I'm not sure. I really don't bring it up unless
Unless you're on a
and
podcast.
like yeah, unless I'm on a
Unless
podcast
you're talking
or
to
if
the whole
or
world.
if somebody asks what are your dreams like or what kind of things are you dreaming of. But like I said, I don't really let it affect my day to day whatsoever, especially because I forget 90% of what happens in the dream.
Right.
But I do know there's somewhere there is a deeper meaning to it. Haven't figured it out yet. I'll let you know when I do. Maybe there is somebody I can talk to. My mom is also a psychologist, so she was a she was
Of
a
course she is.
yeah, she was a psychology professor for Lone Star for a few years. So she, if anybody, she would probably have a good idea of what exactly that means.
And Katie Joe, if you listen to this podcast and you wonder why did he just say of course she is, it's because I'm impressed. Because before we started recording, James told me some of your history, and I'm just very impressed that you're a psychologist on top of everything else you do. Have you ever gone through a couple months of writing it down exactly what happened as soon as you wake up? Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but we typically forget our dreams as we go throughout the day. But if you can catalog them right when you wake up, that's when you can remember a portion of the dream. Have you tried that and later read through the different sequences just to sort of analyze them a little bit?
So I did that only whenever
You died.
no, only whenever they weren't happening. So like I said, it started around mid-teens, 14, 15, 16. I can't remember exactly, but before that I used to write my dreams down for shits and giggles, just to see kind of what was going on in my dreams. And once those dreams started happening, I never really wrote them down. I just kind of remembered this setting that I was in on a body of water, being chased, potentially being harmed. And no, I never really have kind of written down the weird dreams that have come about for the last 10 years, but I probably should. I probably should just to kind of maybe take it to my mom and say, hey, what do you think about these dreams?
I'm not a dreamologist, if that's even a thing. My two thoughts as we've been talking about this was one, I wonder if when you were a kid, you had some sort of incident with water. Like maybe you slipped in the bathtub and were underwater for a few seconds. That's why I was curious if you talked with
Yeah.
your mom about it. The other thing that I thought would be interesting would be is as I've been going through these episodes and similar topics have been coming up, topics meaning things I don't know a lot about. It would be interesting to have you back on in 6 months with
Yeah.
a professional here and do a three-way podcast where we talk about the dream with someone
Yeah.
who could actually, you and me can just shoot the shit about it. You know, I can do a little bit of Q&A based off my own curiosity,
Sure.
but to have someone here who might actually be able to talk about it a little bit or
Yeah, maybe Katie Jo can make an appearance on here.
maybe.
And having her would be the ultimate thing because she, of course, knows my past experiences and she's a psychologist. So putting those two together, she can probably figure out every single thing that's happened to me.
Possibly.
Yeah.
She's been around for a
Based
lot
off,
of it. So
based off of this, that, and the other.
she
right?
has a lot of observations.
Yeah.
Are you
So-
and Katie Joe pretty close?
Not necessarily. So once I moved to Austin, we were pretty close, and I was only living with her for a few months until me and my buddy got our own place. But she is working on her PhD right now. So she's been extremely busy within the last few years and just kind of, I don't want to say, I'm not entirely sure where she's at on it right now, but she's still going through it. She's working on her PhD to, I believe it's in psychology, if I'm not mistaken as well. But not necessarily. I would love to be closer with her. Of course, she lives in Houston. I live in Austin. So I don't really get to see her that much. But getting closer with her is something that I definitely want to start doing. And there's no real reason why I haven't. I've just been kind of going through my 20s and getting good jobs and just kind of focusing on my career in that sense. And I don't want to say distancing myself from my family on purpose, but for the most part, they all live in Houston. So it's kind of hard to have an immediate relationship with them, especially over the phone. So within the last 6 years, we've all kind of drifted apart. They're all there. They've stayed pretty well connected. And yeah.
This is potentially sort of in line with your dreams, potentially not. But early on in your Instagram, one of your posts, you put a quote by someone named CTF, and it was never accept the goddamn limitations put on you by someone else. Who I know I could have just Googled it, but that's no fun. Who's CTF?
CT Fletcher.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's he? She?
So
What's he famous for? What's his big thing everyone would know?
it's still your motherfucking set. So he I think was a pretty big influence in not the bodybuilding, but I believe it was powerlifting. So he held the record for back against the wall. I think it was like a preacher curl or something like that. But For the most part, I think he was just famous for the amount of being that hard ass trainer, right? You know, telling just like Machiavelli motivation, if you're familiar with that. He was kind of like one of them, somebody that just kind of screams in your face, tells you, stop being a bitch, stop doing this, that, and the other. Like, and going into my fitness, going into the lifestyle of fitness, he was one of my main motivations. The YouTube videos on him are just kind of, you know, extremely motivating to just get off your ass and just go to the gym, right? So he was a pretty big influence in my life in my upcoming years.
Do you think your dream has anything to do with you feeling like you have some sort of limitations put on you?
Um,
Like maybe you're not being chased, but maybe you're almost being surrounded or being kept from getting out of the boat. You want to get off the boat. You want to see more than where you're what you're seeing, but you can't because you keep fighting this fight and you can't break out of it.
that's an interesting analogy. I've never really thought about. Of course, the immediate thing is when I wake up, I try to think about what exactly that dream was about within the 10 seconds that I can remember exactly what was going on. I still can't really put a pin on it. I still can't really put any kind of deeper meaning from my dream as to why it's on a body of water, why it's always on either a beach, boat, or sea setting. And in the being chased aspect, I'm not sure. I'm entirely not sure. I mean, it could have something to do with it. I've never really felt like I have had limitations. I'm pretty, not to say it like I do what I want, but if I want something, if I want a goal, then I'm more than likely going to achieve that goal. And like I said, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and I keep changing up the numbers, but not entirely sure. I wasn't being chased by anything. I had a pretty good childhood growing up, no kind of real trauma or anything like that. So I've never really done a deep dive, and again, ask my mom; she can probably give me some advice on it. But never really done a deep dive as to what that deeper meaning is. But coming into the podcast and kind of saying it out loud into this depth, it makes me kind of want to go in and see exactly what that dream. I've never even Googled it, right? So I'm not scared of my dreams. I'm not scared to fall asleep. I'm not scared when I wake up. So I really haven't cared, especially because I have full control and I've never really done anything to try to change it either. That's false. That's false. I say that because, and it's weird, man, and I'm still kind of having these dreams, but more recently I've been opening my mind up to God. And ever since I was a mid-teenager, never really believed in it, man. I've never really been a religious person whatsoever. I'm not a devil worshiper or anything like that, but I've never really accepted God into my life. And going into my teenage years, that was becoming more and more popular. Of course, getting to study certain things and just finding out the meaning of life and things like that. That wasn't really excuse me. That wasn't really something that I was focused on, is finding a deeper meaning for God. But literally within the last couple of weeks, man, and nothing really drastic has changed in my life for me to do it. I'm just trying to be a little bit more open-minded, especially because my immediate friends tell me, you need to open up your mind a little bit to the power of God. So I've been doing a little bit of research, man. I've been reading a couple books and just kind of opening my mind to that. And now that I think about it, that could be potentially the deeper meaning of my dreams.
What books are you starting with?
It's called, I found it on a bookshelf, man. It's called Jesus is Calling. I think it's one of those like things that you're supposed to read daily that just kind of give you the God's affirmations for the day or something like that. But about 30 pages in, and my mind's definitely a little bit more open to the power of God. I've been a little bit more accepting into that sense. So
I'm not straying from this. There's a
sure,
point.
sure.
Do you drink that often?
Funny thing too, recently, the last couple months, I have not been. I've been trying to stay away from it as much as possible. But before that, and I'll tell you, I've gotten in a couple situations when I was 21 and 23 that prevented me from drinking for an entire year. Had to have a little breathalyzer device. That's another story. But it kept me from drinking. And once I stopped drinking, man, everything in my life went amazing. I got, 6 promotions in a year. I was making more money than I've ever made. My relationships with everybody was amazing. But I would say for the most part, I don't really drink that much. When I do, I can't stop.
Yeah.
That's really the main reason why. Once I have a couple beers, it's kind of hard for me to stop.
When was the last time you drank?
Yesterday, I say yesterday, but I had a couple beers. I had 2 beers. Typically when I go out, especially on a Saturday night, man, if my friends are inviting me out, we're going to be out all night,
Right.
like 2, 3, 4 a.m. And I drank yesterday because there was a UFC fight going on. And there was a couple buddies in my area of town that lived north, that were south. They were 2 minutes away from my house. Didn't want to pass up the opportunity. Had a couple beers, went home, played video games. So more recently, I've had a lot more control. I've been really, really, and you can tell by my Instagram, I've really been trying to put a pinpoint on my fitness and health right now. And just relationships in general, man. Like I said, opening up to God a little bit more too within the last couple months. I think it's really not made a huge impact yet on my life, but I can tell it's going in the right direction.
Do you know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. I'm not an active member. I was part of the program for a couple months, went through the 12 steps. Do you know what that term means?
Yeah,
okay.
12, yeah.
Yeah, went through the
Uh-huh.
12 steps. But I have a lot of friends who are active members in it, and it's changed their life, man. So
Yeah.
I'm just putting the seed in there.
Yeah.
If you need a resource, that's maybe if you go down the Christianity route of Jesus and the Hebrew God, and you're like, this isn't for me, but I want to explore like this concept of
Sure.
God a little further, maybe from a non-religious perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That could be an interesting avenue for you. I'm in a similar boat myself. Someone who influences me is a guy named Chris Williamson. He's the host of Modern Wisdom. Do you know who that is by chance?
No.
He was in season 1 of the European version of Love Island. And he's one of the guys on the island that's, brought into, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You haven't heard from him. He started a podcast. He has, I think, north of 600 episodes, over 500,000 people downloading every episode. And he went through this journey where he took 1,000 days off from drinking. And then afterwards, he did a 20-minute recap of it on YouTube. That could be another interesting resource for you that I can send you.
Sure.
His basic takeaway was when you're not putting alcohol into your body, your mind is functioning better, your wallet's functioning better, your body's functioning better. And he just sort of saw his life skyrocket. And but the interesting part, which I will not talk about because I'd rather you or anyone listening to this podcast just go hear for themselves, is I really enjoyed a section where he talked about all the things that he found that he wasn't expecting by going down that journey. So I'll send that to you just so you have another resource.
Sure. And like I said, more recently within the last couple months or so, whenever I moved to Austin, I was going out all the time, right? And what I mean by I can't stop drinking is once we're having a good time and I have that buzz going, you don't want that buzz to stop. Right. So and like I said, whenever I went that year, whenever I was 21 years old and whenever I was 23, maybe 24, those were the best years of my life. I was in the best shape of my life. I had the most money I've ever had in my life. My relationships with everybody were just amazing. Given I stopped hanging out with people that were drinking, I kind of found my real true friends, people that I didn't just go out with just because we were drinking. And it was great, man. And like I said, recently finding that balance right now, whether it's just a couple beers or just going completely sober, which before these 2 beers, I was a month and a half before I had a drink. And it's all coming back, right? So everything good that I felt was happening in that year or 2 that I wasn't drinking, that feeling is coming back, right? I'm getting into, if not the best shape of my life again. Yep. Even more so when I wasn't drinking when I was 21 and 24. My relationships with everybody is good. I feel like my mental clarity is just outstanding right now as far as brain fog and just things with my work are going well. And I'm not one of those people that are hungover in the morning, things like that. So that's really, I'm getting that feeling back. And it's an amazing feeling.
When you go to bed and you've been drinking, I never dream on those nights. I wake up the next morning and I didn't realize it at first, but as I thought about like the last years, I was one of those kids who never had a drink before I was 21.
Yeah.
My first drink ever was with a friend named Christy Green. We went to a restaurant called the Cheesecake Factory. Do we have those out here?
We sure do.
All right, great. I'll probably never go, but great. And dude, I fucking got fettuccine Alfredo and a pina colada. And I thought I was wild, with my fucking pina colada.
Shout out to Christy.
Shout out to Christy for tolerating the schmuck. But and then my second drink was about 4 months later. Let's see, July, August, September, October. 3 months later, our church did an annual chili cook-off. It was great. Everyone brings chili. There's unlimited hot dogs, cornbread. You believe in Jesus or not, if you like to eat food, It's a great event to go
Yeah.
to. And then afterwards, me and a bunch of the other guys and gals that were college age went back to someone's house, and I took 2 shots of Grey Goose, not back to back. I had one, and like I don't know, 30 minutes later, had a
Yeah.
second one. I didn't get it. I thought it tasted absolutely disgusting, especially Grey Goose. You know, if you've never drank in your life
gotta
except for a pina colada, you're basically
Oh
drinking
yeah.
rubbing
Oh yeah.
alcohol.
I have a funny story about Grey Goose.
Let's go to that, and I'll come back to dream suppression in a minute.
So, of course, being I think I was 15 or 16, my mom was a police officer, and I had never been to a party, let alone been drunk before. So I go to this house party. I tell my mom I'm spending the night at my friend's house, and there was a house party for one of my buddy's birthdays. Still one of my good friends to this day. Shout out to Kong.
Kong,
Yeah, Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah. We went over to my buddy's house. We had a huge party. All the popular kids were there. Everybody was there. I thought I was a badass. Everybody was drinking. 15, 16. His mom was there. She was okay with it for some reason. But ended up having a Four Loko and putting Grey Goose in that Four Loko.
Woo!
Yeah. So hour goes by. I'm completely blackout. I'm damn near a noodle. I'm on my friend's bed throwing up. My mom calls me. And I don't answer about 3 times. And so she calls my friend's mom. Friend's mom says I'm sleeping. Mom's not buying that. Mom's a police officer. She knows damn well I'm not sleeping. Long story short, she comes in and she busts the party with 3 of her other cop friends. Handful of people got arrested. I was a joke of the school for a few months. That was my first time being drunk. And I didn't drink again until I got to college. Yeah.
You said it was going to be a funny story.
Did I?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny, right? Mom came and busted. Mom came and busted about 5 of my friends.
Mom came with her police force.
Came with the
arrested
police.
your friends. What impact did that have on you at school?
I wasn't too much of a popular kid at the time, so it didn't really have much of an impact. Everybody, of course, knew that I was.
So you just met expectations of, oh, James fucked up again.
Yeah. No,
I'm
not.
giving you shit. I'm sorry.
Not necessarily. I just kind of went and did the normal thing that I did, right? A handful of people knew the situation, but of course I think there was only actually like maybe 2 or 3 kids that actually got arrested, but nothing really bad happened to them. We really never kind of talked about it after that. As far as in school, of course, my mom reamed me, took my door off, like did the whole works. I was in trouble for quite some time, but then I guess after that is really when I started getting into fitness, about age 16, 17. So maybe that had an impact on it. Maybe it didn't, but I'm here now and I'm in pretty good shape now. So
There's a quote I wanted to run by you. You know who Les Brown is?
not familiar. No.
I think he's a public speaker. I heard an interview that he did once, and a quote that I took away from it was that someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. What do you think about that quote?
I wouldn't say I've struggled, but I've kind of been trying to find the right balance between caring what other people think about you and not caring. Just because you can have their own perception of you in a sense, but it's not the real perception. But there are certain people that can just break you down just based off of a 5-minute conversation, break you down exactly how you are. So, it's really all about the person that's kind of having that opinion, I would say. But generally, people's opinion, I would say, don't matter. In the whole aspect of it, it doesn't really matter. You can sit here and say it kind of depends on the person that's observing you or things like that, but in the big blanket statement, no, I don't really think somebody's opinion or perception of you really should affect you. It might matter depending on what kind of situation you're in, whether it's if your boss thinks you're a douche, he's not, or at certain situations like that, it's probably going to affect you in some kind of way as far as your job. But I'm not really sure where I'm going with this, but you kind of get what I'm saying in that sense. It matters, but it doesn't matter, right? It depends who is having that perception of you and what that snowball effect could possibly be, right? Somebody doesn't like you, so they're not going to give you this, or you're not going to get that, or this job or that job, or things like that, right? So
I think it was also Les Brown that said that when someone gets told something negative, it takes them hearing the opposite message 17 up to 17 times before they don't believe the negative message anymore.
Really?
So even
That's
if
interesting.
the opinion is not true, it's coming from a source that maybe you wouldn't give much weight, like let's say the boss. The boss is maybe micromanaging and they're this, that, and the other, and so they really don't have that much opinion, yet every day they tell you that you're lazy, that you're not good enough, whatever the thing is. Do you think that even if it's someone who's you don't think that they would carry a lot of weight, just by having it said to you anyways, you might still need those 17 positive affirmations to be able to move away from the negative thing that was said about you?
Yes and no. If I would say it's still it might still depend on the person. If a random person comes walks past me and says
You're
you're
small.
yeah, you're small or you're ugly. Well, you're small, I might get my feelings hurt a little bit, but something else, just something that they don't know about you or have no idea about, and you would know if they have any idea, maybe, maybe not, but for the most part, a random person walking down the street isn't gonna know you too well, right? If it's one of my best friends and they actually legitimately tell me, look, dude, you're small as shit, or you're hideous or something like that, I may take it into a little bit of consideration and do a deeper dive into it. But again, it's all about really how confident you are in yourself to even let things affect you in the first place, right? So, generally speaking, I still would think it just kind of depends who it is and what they say.
There's this quote I heard once that I love, and it's don't give someone with a cheap seat in the audience an expensive opinion over your life. You heard that one?
I have not, no.
So that's the person on the street, this complete stranger who you've
Mm,
never met. They don't know you, you don't know them. They have a very cheap seat in the audience of your life, and
yeah,
yet they give an opinion, whatever it is. You're small, you're ugly, so whatever it is. Don't give them an expensive opinion over your life. It's a clever little quote, but I think that there's also, to your point, you need to have some confidence built up
yeah,
to actually walk that walk
yeah.
of I'm not going to let James's opinion impact me. So, how have you built confidence over the last couple of years?
Um, I would say one being physically fit is one thing, but having the mentality that especially the mentality that the gym kind of gives you and the gym environment gives you, and the people you're around are you always have to be around people that are uplifting you, right? So, and people that are going to be real with you, you take them a little bit more serious than that average person with the cheap seats, of course, right?
Yep.
Building the confidence, I think it has a lot to do with just mental strength, and I can thank the gym a lot for that. Maybe even 100% for the mental strength that I have now to not let certain things affect me. Sorry, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here.
No, you're okay.
Can you repeat the question again?
How do you build confidence?
Okay, that's a good question, man. I've ne-
Do
I
you
it just
consider yourself a confident person?
in some senses, in the gym, I'm extremely confident just because I'm physically fit. I'm mentally sharp. I feel like, and I say confidence, not even like being arrogant or knowing or thinking that I'm better than everybody, but confidence in a sense that, I know I'm not the things that people are, potentially saying about me or the things that people perceive me as, and just not letting it affect me. You have to have some kind of, you don't necessarily have to, but certain things are going to put you down, man. And the confidence that builds from getting put down, it's just going to make you stronger, right? So if somebody comes up to you and says, you're again like you're small or whatever, it's just kind of, if somebody tells you you're one thing and you act on it to not be that thing, like, okay, well, if I'm small, I'm just going to go to the gym and eat and I'm going to get bigger. That's kind of the same analogy of building confidence and as to what people say to you, right? So people can tell you that you're an angry person or you're not nice, things like that, and you can either take what they say as a negative thing or you can take it as kind of a learning experience. And I think that builds confidence for the most part, just kind of reaffirming yourself that you're going to prove this person wrong, or you are that thing, right? You
Mm-hmm.
you are small, you are a mean or angry person, something like that. So overcoming situations, I think, is the main thing that kind of builds confidence.
Has there been any goals you set for yourself in the last 1 month to couple of years? that you've liked to accomplish that you'd care to share about, even if they haven't been started yet necessarily?
Sure, sure. So money is, of course, going to be a major influence in how things and what direction things are going to go. And not only just the money aspect, but how you're going to get that said money to do that said thing that you want to accomplish. So first thing on the list is definitely my income. I would like for it to be substantially higher. And me having this new job, I've actually more than doubled my income from the previous job that I was at a few months
Nice.
ago. So things kind of came into place, man. And the way they came into place, I can't really put a pin on it. Just opportunities came to me and I took those opportunities. And it's funny because the guy that I was mentioning that I met at Gold's Gym, the first who got me that first job, Sabir, shout out to Sabir. I love you, bro. He got me that job there, and the last job that I was at, he was there as well, and he got me that job too because I was moving from Houston to Austin. Didn't really want to go back into the gym scene. I kind of wanted to expand my sales capabilities. So I went into this sales and marketing company with him. As soon as I got there, he ended up leaving like the same week because he got another opportunity at the job that we're currently at now. So I was at my last job for about a year, and then the opportunity came about to where there was openings at his job. So I was like, hey, I kind of want to go deeper into sales because this isn't, it was more so of kind of a recruiting in a sense. I want to go deeper into sales while also doubling my income. So that's exactly what I did. I said, hey, can you put in a recommendation for me? Got the recommendation, and I'm currently at this job now. So I would say I met that goal. As far as any kind of physical goals, I'm doing that every single day. I feel like I kind of accomplished what I need to there. For the most part, my health and my diet are 100% on point. I wouldn't say 100% besides those 2 beers yesterday, but as far as any other kind of goals, man, like I said, getting a little bit closer with God has been something that I've kind of been opening up my mind to, and reading those daily affirmations in that book. I know it's just like a small little, I'm not even sure if it's like a popular book. It was just something that I found on the bookshelf one day, and I was like, I'm going to take a look at this. And like I said, man, it's opened my eyes up to a lot of things. I wouldn't consider myself a religious person at all, but it's a goal of mine to get a little bit closer with God and kind of opening my eyes and see what it's really all about.
What have you seen change in your life since your income has doubled?
So, less debt, I would say.
Cool.
So that's the number one thing on with that money is to get out of debt. It's not a huge amount of debt, but of course, having any kind of debt is going to be a lingering pain on you,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
getting out of debt is one thing, but once I actually get out of debt and start having money to play around with, of course, making more money with that money is going to be something that I'm looking into doing. So there's a lot of different things, man, especially going on social media and having all these flipping real estate or starting Airbnb, things like that. Once I really get comfortable with what I'm doing and the money that I'm making, I'll start looking into a little bit more of my own business ventures, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you buy a house, you rent it out, you're
Mm-hmm.
making some money, you buy a second house,
Yep.
you buy 12 houses, you're making pretty good income from your day job, you have this revenue stream coming from your rental properties. What
Sure.
kind of business would you open?
Can you take a guess?
I mean, I'm going to default to either security or health clubs,
Yeah, health
you
club.
know?
Yeah,
Okay.
health club. That's always been a dream of mine is to open my own gym. Jim's gym, maybe.
Jim's
My
Gym.
nickname is Jimmy. My friends and family call me Jimmy.
Jimmy's House of
Yeah,
Gains.
that's good, man. I might trademark that.
Do it quick.
um, Open up a gym. Yeah, I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm too passionate about the security portion of it, more so passionate about the sales aspect of what I'm doing right now. But having a sales background and having worked in a gym for quite some time and me being that go-getter that was just, if I want something eventually, I'm going to do it, right? So getting that knowledge into building my own health club, I think it's not going to be easy, of course, but I feel like I'm mentally strong enough to make whatever I want happen.
What would be the differentiator about it?
The differentiator with my gym compared to others?
Yep.
I haven't really thought about that yet. There's a lot of new gyms that are coming about that are all different kinds of styles, especially going into Los Campeones versus Gold's Gym. The vibe and just the the main differences in those two, one being a commercial gym and being half the price versus $80 a month, and kind of being like a boutique bodybuilder. I would say everything's brand new, things like that. I'm not really sure what my specific niche would be, because for the most part, I'm not necessarily, at least at this current moment, I'm not necessarily focused on the physical aspect of it, but more so the health and mental aspect of being in the gym. So yeah, that's really a good question, and that's definitely something I can get back to you on. I'll see you next time.
There will be a next time.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out what a dreamologist is actually
Yes,
called.
yes.
And we might do 3 episodes,
Dude,
one with
yeah,
Katie
we have
Joe,
to,
one with the
man. If I get my mom on here,
dreamologist.
man, it's like I said, man, especially her knowing me obviously my entire life, and her being a master's psychologist, I would love to do a deep dive into that. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. I want to segue to something you said earlier, because part of this podcast is I do want people to walk away with something that either mentally makes them stronger, physically makes them stronger. You were talking earlier about the gym and how there's other people that are trying to reach a common goal.
Sure.
So if you go to, let's say, Gold's Gym, Bee Cave, just because that's where I go on a weekday night, you might have a Zumba class going on in the back room. On the second floor, you have a ton of people doing cardio. You have people in the back corner hitting the punching bag. You have people in the stretching room off to the side doing their stretches. You have other people that are doing crazy workouts that I've never seen before. You have people doing that weird neck machine. We don't have that in California. I'm not really sure what that's about, but people are on it. The thing that I like the most about the gym, for anyone that's thinking about working out, but they can't get themselves to do it either because they're embarrassed, I don't know anything, I can just work out in my family room, whatever the thing may be. The only reason that I promote the gym so heavily is because I think there's something so powerful about being connected with all these other people that are all reaching the common goal. Maybe it looks different, the Zumba person versus the person squatting versus the person at the punching bag. I think there's just something so powerful, at least for me, of being surrounded by 60, 70, 80 other people that we're all trying to be healthier. I think for me, I'm trying to escape my day a little bit. It's my time away from work. It's my time away from my dog who's ridden with separation anxiety. It's my time to pop in a headphone and just be somewhere else for a little bit. So not only are you seeing the physical strength gains or maybe speed, agility, mobility, whatever it is you're working towards, but it's just a sense of community. Even if you don't know the other people in the gym, you start to see the same faces over again. And then that brings up the nearness effect. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but
it's basically, you ever become friends with someone who's, you had the same class together at school, and then maybe after that class ended, that friendship fizzled a little bit? That's the nearness effect, essentially, is you see someone in the same place at the same time every Tuesday at 7, you know you're going to see David on his podcast. So the nearness effect is essentially a very powerful way to tap into how can you build your community. And it's by connecting with those that you see at the same time, the same day, every day. So for people who maybe are thinking about working out, go try it. Try something, whether it's the yoga class, the weights, a small gym, a chain gym, like just check them out because it could be really good for you.
Absolutely.
With that being said, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and just give some practical advice based off some things that I found off your Instagram.
Sure.
Do you feel like you could talk about carb loading?
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk about, act as if I know nothing and the people listening know nothing. Let's just start with something very basic.
Okay.
What is it?
So carb backloading is basically going, and this is the way I did it. There's multiple different ways to do it, but this is kind of a way that I went about it. I wanted to essentially get my muscles bigger while getting shredded. Right. So that, of course, is one of the hardest things to do, is staying lean bulking, as others would say. But the carb backloading is basically whenever you go all day without eating carbs. And I worked out at 6 p.m. So this is the way I did it. I went all day without eating carbs, just eating protein and fats. And then after my workout, I would fill up on carbs. And that was the only glycogen that was going into my body, and it was just going straight to my muscles. And I'm sure you can see on the Instagram picture where I mentioned it, I was full, I was big, and I was shredded. So that, and I've really been a huge advocate on not only carb backloading, but playing around with carbs, right? Playing around with certain kinds of carbs, whether you're completely eliminating that, which I did for a whole year, or you're just just eating carbs after your workout or before your workout to get some glycogen in there to put a little bit more size and fullness into your muscles. I toy around with it quite a bit. I would say probably half the year I'm sub 50 grams of carbs, and the other half is pretty much carb backloading, is only eating carbs after my workout. So
With that protein and fat diet in the morning and lunch, give a few examples of some of your favorite like breakfasts and lunch or snacks that you would have.
sure. So with just the proteins and fats, it would either be anywhere between like 6 to 7 eggs, avocado, protein shake, some kind of beef or steak. Not really chicken fan in the morning, but
I don't think
I'm not
never
sure
heard
who
of anyone
is.
that is.
Yeah,
No one's throwing chicken in their blender with their
No,
protein and their
not me.
AG1s.
No, sir. But really, man, just eggs. Eggs have really been a big staple whenever I am doing kind of, I would call semi-keto. Eggs have really been a big staple. Ground beef and avocados too. So
We mix that together, cook the ground beef, throw some scrambled the eggs,
yeah,
avocado, and it's almost like a breakfast bowl.
I do that maybe once or twice a day.
It sounds pretty
Yeah,
good, actually.
and black beans too. I really love black
Canned,
beans.
or will you soak them and cook them yourself?
I do canned.
Canned, okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a crock pot of black beans?
I tried to one time and I failed miserably, so I've never tried to do it again. I just always get the little HEB can of black beans.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
You get a bag of black beans and you throw it in the crock pot. You chop up an onion, throw that in there. You add some salt. You get some of that pre-minced garlic and maybe put like 2 teaspoons of garlic in there.
Yeah.
You turn it on, I think I put it on low if I'm doing it at nighttime, like right before I go to bed. High if I'm turning it on first thing in the morning if I need it ready by dinner time.
Mm-hmm.
These beans are 30 times better than any canned beans.
Yeah.
I know canned is easier
So
if
easy.
you're busy, if you're whatever.
Yeah.
But these beans, if you want something that's healthy and just knocks the canned beans out of the water,
Yeah.
no pun intended, just crock pot water.
I'm
you
sure
know?
it's cheaper too.
Probably, I think, because a bag of beans is like what 98 cents,
Yeah.
and it's probably the equivalent of like 8 cans.
Yeah, a can of beans like
The only thing I
79,
don't
80
like about
cents.
it is eating them all before they go bad, because
Yeah.
it makes so many.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the carb loading. And one of the questions I was going to ask, who should do it, but you sort of answered that. Would you say it is people who are looking to increase muscle while also decreasing fat? At least was that your experience with it?
I would say so. Yeah, yeah, for the most part. And also just the kind of carbs that you're eating are going to be extremely important when you are doing that carb load, because the only glycogen that you're getting is from these said carbs. If it's bread or flour, just any kind of processed things, when your body soaks all that up, it's not going to sit well with it, right?
So like last night for dinner, let's say I was carb loading. When I got home from the gym last night, I ended up making a shepherd's pie. So I used ground turkey, celery, carrots, a couple random spices such as like basil, rosemary, pepper, no salt. I didn't put any salt in it. Cooked all that up while in the meantime boiled a couple potatoes. And then I added in some of that better than bouillon, teaspoon of that with some boiling water, half a can of crushed tomatoes, stirred all that up. Meanwhile, the potatoes on the side, drained them, threw in probably like teaspoon and a half of butter and a big scoop of garlic and more rosemary, mashed those, put them on top of the turkey mixture, boiled it in the oven for 5 minutes, done.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
carbs,
No,
bad
no.
carbs?
Potatoes are, it's kind of a,
I guess I could have just said potatoes, but that one I painted as nice of a picture, you know?
It's okay.
As going through the whole shepherd's pie.
no worries, no worries. Potatoes they're a slow digesting carb. I am not saying they're bad. Sweet potatoes are, of course, going to be better in my opinion, but
Canned or raw?
raw.
How would you cook them?
So I dice it up and throw it in the oven at 400 for, it's been a while since I've eaten sweet potatoes, but maybe 15, 20 minutes, I would say.
How long has it been?
Since I've had sweet potatoes, a little over a year.
You put any spices on them or anything?
So
or
many
just
spices.
like what?
Like paprika, chili powder, salt, pepper, even throw a dash of cumin in there. Yeah, I'm a big fan of seasoning.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm too.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny you bringing it up if you're not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Come on, Jimmy.
Yeah, I know. Just
I know.
well, I would say the main carbs that I normally eat now are going to be black beans. So basically a whole can of black beans, I think it has like 60 grams of carbs minus the fiber. It reaches right at my around 30 to 50 grams of total carbs for the day. If I really wanted to eat carbs and actually do the carb backloading and be serious with it, then typically it's white rice. Super fat. It's I want to say it's, if not the fastest digesting form of carb there is, at least as far as I know. And fruit. I eat a lot of fruit too. So mainly the glycogen will come from either the white rice or some kind of fruit.
Any favorite 1 or 2 fruits that you'd recommend?
It's funny that you asked that, man, because typically, obviously avocados are one thing, but
Is avocado a fruit?
I think so, and I kind of hesitated saying that because I had to think in my head.
You know how I told you could take whatever you wanted out of this podcast?
Yeah.
We're not editing that
Yeah,
out.
no. Please
That's
not.
too funny. Fact check it later.
Besides avocados, I would say, and like I said, it's funny because you asked that because I went grocery shopping the other day and I was in the fruit aisle. I usually only get strawberries and blueberries, literally only that. But as of recently, I got a couple mangoes. I got a melon. I almost got a jackfruit, but I knew I wasn't gonna know how to, or dragon fruit, one of those two. I knew I wasn't gonna know how to cut it, but
Was it the pink one with the weird
spikes
thorns?
on it, kind of. Yeah.
I've always seen those, and I want to buy one,
I was this
but I
close.
don't know.
I was this close.
Why don't we just Google it? What's wrong with us?
Yeah, I don't
what
know.
to do with
You know,
dragon
I'll
fruit?
bring one next time, and we
Okay.
can try it next time. But no, I just kind of recently started opening up to a little bit more fruits, man. Melon and mango is what I recently got. So
So since the melon and the mango is new, before you switched it up, when you got the strawberries and the blueberries, would you just eat them by themselves as like a morning snack, or what did you do with those?
So whenever I do buy strawberries and kind of keep them in my fridge and are consistently eating them, that's really whenever I'm like full on keto. Because obviously I'm not eating sugar, and that's like the possibly sweetest thing I can have is like strawberries, blueberries. No specific reason why. I mean, they just taste good.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. One thing that I noticed off your Instagram is that you have achieved something that many people want to, and I don't know many people that have, which is you got a 6-pack, man. You're jacked. So if you were to give 1 or 2 pieces of advice in regards to if someone's been wanting to accomplish that,
Sure.
they haven't been able to get over that hump of like 4 to 6, or maybe they can't even see 4. What's 1 or 2 secrets that you'd share with us?
Sure. So, and for a lot of people that I know that do also have a 6-pack, if you ask them what their ab routine is, they don't have one. They never do abs. And I more specifically don't really do abs. I would say, and this is based off of kind of what I went through, is I went through, I guess, somewhat of a bulk, built up my core an extreme amount just by engaging the core, right? Just by only engaging the core during all my lifts. And leg day, and like we talked about before, leg day has become one of the biggest influences on that. Because man, whenever I do legs every 3 days is when my 6-pack comes out. Legs every 3 days on top of having a consistent diet, that's really what brings it out the most. But for the most part, I would say cutting out carbs. Cutting out carbs, or before you cut out carbs, you have to build a good foundation, because of course you're going to lose weight. And if you lose weight while you're already skinny and don't have a lot of muscle, you're just going to look skinnier with the 6-pack, right? But if somebody actually wants to have either a muscle 6-pack or just a little bit more defined, I would say build up a little bit first. You're probably going to have to gain a little bit of weight.
Yep.
Unless you carb backload. And then you can do both at the same time.
Yep.
Carb backloading was of course one of the things that helped me achieve that. But cutting carbs, doing legs, and always engaging your core in every single exercise. Like I said, I've never do abs. I've maybe done like 3 days in the gym total of like any kind of ab exercise. So that's probably my best advice. Yeah.
Okay. You do legs every 3 days?
Every 3 days.
How? I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer this, but tell me how you do that, because for me, I would be sore as shit and scared of overworking them.
Yep.
And like something snapping, like my knee tendon.
Yeah.
So how do you pull that off?
So it's funny that you say that too, because my knees hurt like a motherfucker right now.
Do you wear knee sleeves?
I don't. And I recently just started looking up into knee sleeves and seeing what kind of the best support is going to be, because I've been a big advocate on doing legs. I've had days to where, or years to where I've consistently squatted 400 plus pounds all the time on all my leg days, right? Either 400 pounds, 300 pounds, whatever. As me being 165, 170, that's definitely going to take a toll. But recently my knees have just been like unbearably aching. And so I started asking people around the gym. Like you said, it's a community, man. You can talk to anybody in there.
Yep.
I've been recently asking people with knee sleeves, what kind of knee sleeves are you using? I'm may not be helping that I'm doing legs every 3 days and squatting 400 plus every 3 days, but I still want to keep doing that because it's just kind of part of my routine now. Like I work my way up to 315, 4, whatever. And I don't want to stop doing that, especially because of the benefits that it gives me, especially because doing legs, haven't done too much research on this, but it's said to boost your testosterone whenever you do squats, specifically squats. And that another benefit is my abs coming out more. So I don't want to stop what I'm doing,
Yep.
but my knees hurt like a motherfucker right now, even too, they still hurt. So I've never used knee sleeves. I want to say rarely use a belt unless I'm over 400. So
You should look into the knees over toes guy
okay.
on YouTube. You ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
He also markets himself as he runs the Squat University page.
I think I may
That could
follow
be a
that
really
page.
good resource
Yeah.
for you. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Just have some follow-ups.
Do you use knee sleeves for any of your workouts or anything like that?
Yes. Have you heard? Has anyone told you to check out SBD Apparel?
Mm-mm.
Really good knee sleeves.
Yeah.
I think I paid $100 plus shipping for them, so they were a little pricey.
Nice.
Night and day difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're sleeves, not like the wraps, right?
I'll show them to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
For anyone that's wondering, this is what they look like. So it's literally just a
Oh, those look high tech.
sleeve. You can't really see it with how we have the light right now. It's getting dark. But yeah, man, it's SBD Apparel, and I can't explain the science behind them. But about 2 or 3 years ago, I was talking to my buddy Julian, who's a power lifter, and I told him I don't want to give up my leg day, but I'm becoming that guy whose knees are actually
Yes.
starting to hurt.
Yeah.
The guys in the memes,
Me,
and I don't
yeah.
want to stop leg day. And he said, get these. So I trusted him. I bought a pair, and it's been great, coupled with watching Squat University and getting little tips for what direction should you point your knees, how to warm up for squats if you plan on going ass to grass, or if you plan on going very, very heavy. Dude, squats is just such a complicated workout that you and me are not equipped to do effectively on our own.
Yeah.
So I have to listen to people wiser than I am.
Absolutely. And I did kind of change up and just based off of a few videos I've seen on Instagram and just kind of the knowledge that I've had with the trainers around my life within the last 5 or 6 years. But recently just been trying to change position to where, like you said, pointing your knees out just a little bit more.
Yep.
I've only recently been doing that within the last couple months. And I don't know if it's because I have maybe like an imbalance in those areas, but that's really what's been sparking my knee pain. But on the other hand, it makes me a hell of a lot stronger in those positions versus me being straight footed and just being slightly out, putting more emphasis on my quads that way versus pointing them out a little bit. I'm using everything else, and certain muscles are pulling from your knee tendons, and it's causing more pain. But like you said, I don't want to give up my leg days just because I have a little bit of knee pain. I'm not gonna be a little bitch and skip leg days ever again. But no, these are definitely something, and these are, man, these are thick for anybody that SBD, right?
SBD.
These are thick bad boys right here. So I can imagine how these are going to kind of compress your tendons. And would you say these are, and I guess it's kind of a different thing, but like the knee wraps that you wrap around your knee, what do you think about those?
I have no opinion on those.
Okay.
Yeah, I only because I don't know exactly like what they'll, in my imagination, the main difference I would think is that this is guaranteed to be this thickness.
Mhm.
I put it on like this and nothing's changing.
Yeah,
Whereas if a knee wrap, I would imagine if I wrap it wrong or if I have a bad wrapping technique or maybe I don't pull it tight enough,
makes a lot of
it
sense.
might, I'm completely just guessing here.
Yeah,
But that's why I got this was because I just wanted to know that once I put it on, it's activated, it's there,
sure.
it's doing its job.
Yeah, and I've seen in some situations to where people's knee wraps snap off whenever they're squatting.
Hmm.
It'll unravel or what have you, but I think these are definitely the way to go.
Wrapping up here, any other final thoughts around either carb loading or getting a six pack?
Not necessarily. I would say for anybody that hasn't gone completely without carbs for even a day, 2 days, 3 days a week, give it a shot.
No.
I don't expect everybody to do so. And I'm not saying carbs are even bad, but if you want to lose weight, and of course you're going to sacrifice a little bit of muscle too, and maybe not even a little bit, maybe a lot of muscle, and depends on how big you are. But I would say not even going full keto, but just and I say carbs, just processed carbs too. Eliminating processed carbs from my diet has definitely been the biggest impact on inflammation, mental clarity, things like that, and just kind of eating carbs that do well for me, like rice and sweet potatoes,
Sweet potatoes.
maybe, but and black beans, man. That's really just kind of been the staples of my carbs. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Did you feel though that on those days that you went without carb, was your energy depleted?
No, I would say if anything, I had a lot more energy, and really, I would say that comes from a lot more mental clarity. Not necessarily wanting to do certain things, but having the mental strength and mental clarity to just kind of do it. And a lot of the processed carbs that I used to eat, it just caused brain fog and just my mental clarity wasn't all there, and that would affect, I would say, not my energy, but my motivation to do things. So I think those kind of go hand in hand. And once you switch up your diet and you're eating the right things, and like I said, going without even processed carbs for a week or so, you're going to see a lot of good changes, not only in your body, whether that being you lose a little bit of fat or you lose a little bit of muscle, but the benefits are going to outweigh it in your brain. I think so. So have you ever gone without
No.
okay.
No way.
Most people haven't.
I
Most people haven't.
I almost religiously do some sort of pasta every week.
Yeah.
It always looks
Pasta's
different,
good.
whether it's
Yeah.
like a red sauce, an oil, something
Sure.
like that. So, and then that lasts me 1 to 3 days. And then usually there is a potato in at least a meal week, whether I just slice it up and
Hmm.
make like homemade French fries or like last night, the mashed potatoes example.
Yeah.
I think most people think mashed potatoes are only for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I eat mashed potatoes like 15 times a
I
year.
love mashed
They're
potatoes,
so
man. I
good.
love mashed
They're so
potatoes.
good.
I love it.
And then in just thinking of what's in my kitchen, rice, I do eat rice pretty regularly,
Hmm.
black beans pretty
Oh yeah.
regularly, sweet potatoes, I did that a lot in 2021 and 2022. I sort of
Yeah.
forgot about it since I moved here. I need to start picking those up
Yeah.
again.
Really, man, and when I say processed carbs, for the most part for me, it was just bread. It was just a lot of bread. And some of those, I mean, some of those aren't necessarily processed, but it was just and I'm maybe just even sensitive to gluten, but that just kind of messed me up a little bit. It's just eating bread, a lot of bread.
One of my buddies who has a six pack has, I don't know how many times a week he does this, but he cooks French toast for breakfast pretty regularly. And he also says that sandwiches is one of his main meals for like lunches normally. And in my
Hmm.
head, I've always wondered, how is this fucker eating French toast for
Yeah.
breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, Chipotle for, or, and you know what? One of his, he does 12-hour shifts at his job. And he told me that sometimes when he gets off, he'll go to In and Out and he'll get two 4x4s. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay. Those, do we have In and Out out here?
We do.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we do.
went to one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He gets two 4x4s and a shake. And as he told me his diet, I'm just like, I'm missing
Jesus.
something because you are shredded,
Yeah.
but you're not eating like someone who's shredded.
Yeah.
What am I missing? You
There
know?
could be some, there's a ton of factors that can go into why somebody has a certain kind of diet, but they look a certain way, and it can be flip-flopped. There can be a skinny person that eats 5,000 calories a day of just a bunch of shit and they can still be skinny and still look good.
Yep.
Or it can be that really heavy person that only eats healthy food, but they're still big. It's really all about how much of it you're eating. And to that, I would say intermittent fasting has definitely been something that I also have implemented along with carb backloading, keto, things like that. I've done a lot of that recently. I intermittent fasted today up until like 2, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. Usually it's a fasted workout. And some days, man, and when I'm at my shredded, man, I'll go 12 hours in a shift, not eating anything, and then eat one giant meal. And after those 12 hours, your body just kind of soaks up everything right then and there. So a lot of variables, a lot of factors that go into it. But I was kind of like that at one point to where my diet was complete garbage and I was still somehow lean. So
it's that metabolism, boy.
yeah, definitely building up a good
It's
metabolism.
that metabolism
is something that I always try to work on, is having a good metabolism and making sure the right foods that I'm eating are going to metabolize in my body correctly.
Final question for you.
Yes.
Let's say that you're 26 now.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self something, what would you tell him?
What I would tell him, fitness related or just anything in general? Don't drop out of college would probably be one thing. And I really feel like the diet that the average teenager eats is going to affect them in the long run. At some certain point, when you're eating Taco Bell every single day for 5 months, or just bad food every day for 5 months, eventually something in there is going to mess with you at this age. So I would say cut out as much processed foods as you can. And as a 16-year-old, I'm not sure my ass would listen to myself, but yeah.
I think it would. If 16-year-old you was lying in bed and then this man that looks just like you, but with a goatee and guns and a six-pack is all of a sudden levitating above your... Don't eat processed carbs, Jimmy! Okay!
From my lucid dream.
Carbs again. Jesus Christ, if that happened to me, if I saw this bald bearded... Oh,
that's funny.
Yeah, I'd cut out carbs very easily.
Yeah.
Okay, question for you.
Yes.
If someone lives in your area and wanted to get a workout in with you, would you be down for that?
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Absolutely.
So if anyone wants to get a hold of my new friend Jimmy, his handle on Instagram is James Ruiz. Ruiz.
I'm not sure how I got that title.
I'm not sure
It's just
either.
my first and last name.
Yeah, there's no numbers, no underscores.
Yeah, I'm the first James Ruiz on Instagram. So that's kind of interesting to think
either of
about.
those names are like unique. Like my last name is Auclair. You don't see a lot of Auclairs running around.
Yeah.
But
James Ruiz. I've never met another James Ruiz, and I rarely ever meet people with the same last name as me. So could be a coincidence. Could only be the only James Ruiz out there, but I've never really even looked.
Maybe you're only James Ruiz on
Earth.
Wanted to no.
Yeah.
I don't think that. No. Before I close this thing out, any closing remarks?
No, man. I would just say I really appreciate you having me on here. It's been a great session here, and I'm definitely looking forward. I'm definitely so accustomed to the gym mind.
Did it go the way you were expecting it to go?
I did, man. And you're a great host. I will tell you that. I really love everything that you threw at me. It was all extremely relatable, and I was kind of able to open up more than I normally do to anybody, man. I normally don't kind of get to talk about my life experiences or my relationship with my mom or anything like that. It's kind of really, like you said, it gives me something to take away from this is the things that we talked about today. So I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's for, man.
Yeah, man.
I thank you. I appreciate that. To take this thing out, if you enjoyed this episode, please guys, like it, leave a review, share it with your friends. If you want to follow us on Instagram for pictures, updates, anything like that, it's David Saturday Night Sit Back, all one word. If you are a super mega fan and you want to support the podcast, you can find us at patreon.com/sitbackwithdavid. And last but not least, if you're Austin-based and you'd like to be on the show, either slide into my DMs or you can email me at sitbackwithdavid@yahoo.com. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great Saturday night. Thank you so much for listening in, and we will see you guys next week for another episode. Until then, stay healthy, stay happy, and try carb loading. All right, bye guys.